Hi.
How are you?
Good.
That's the way. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Can you hear me okay? I know we've got technology happening. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Either give me thumbs up or use some of the emojis or all that sort of stuff. That's great. Very interesting background you've got going on there. Okay, I can see they work. All right. Before we get started, I'd just like to do an acknowledgement of country if I can. So I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to elders past and present. Okay. Could you hear all that okay?
Yep.
All right, excellent. So what brings you in today?
Um, Help with my Year 11 subjects.
Okay, I might just get you to speak a little bit louder if I can in the future. It might be my volume. Anyway, so some help with your Year 11 subject choices.
Yep.
Is that right? Okay, no problem. Before we get started, can I just ask you a couple of questions? And because we're doing this remotely online, from time to time, I might just have to look away and write some notes down. Okay?
Yep.
If that's okay, if you're happy with that. Now, Lucy, can you give me your full name?
Lucy Williams,
All right, excellent. And your date of birth?
the 10th of the 8th, 2009.
All right, so does that make you 15?
Yep.
All right, excellent. And what year are you in, Lucy?
Year 10,
And what school are you at?
Vienna College.
Siena College,
Yep.
in Camberwell.
Yep.
Yeah, is it a good school?
Yep.
Excellent. That's a good answer because I'm sure your mummy and daddy would be very rapt with that answer, particularly the amount of fees that they probably have to pay. Okay. So, um, so you said you'd like to get some direction or some advice around some of your Year 11 subjects. So before today's meeting, I asked you if you could, because we had a conversation prior to this and prior to this meeting, and you said you had completed your Moresby profile recently.
Yep.
Yeah. So I had a look through that, and I'm gonna refer back to it a couple of times if I can, just to get a sense of some of the really important information in it, which I think is relevant, and then ask you some of the questions around, what you think the profile identifies about you, because it's pretty clear from my point of view, what it identifies. But I just want to sort of get a sense if we're on the same page. So I'm going to share my screen from time to time and move between screens. So it'll be a little bit difficult at times, but we'll do the best that we can. So thanks for coming today. So my role is going to be to support you in making some sort of subject selection choices that fit your interests, strengths, and future goals. Everything that we discuss is confidential, unless, of course, I think there's a safety concern. Being someone under 16, Lucy, I've got to be mindful of the Victorian Child Safety Standards. So if I think that you freely, tell me any information which I think I need to report in terms of your safety, I will do that. Is that okay by you?
Yes.
It's part of what we call the reportable outcomes or the mandatory reporting procedures. All right. So this is your session. You're the expert on what's happening in your world. My job is really just to sort of guide you through and give you some direction and some advice. Does that sound fair and reasonable?
Yep.
All right. So how are you feeling about have you started doing any planning for your subjects for Year 11 next year?
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
It is only, what are we? It is May, so we've got a bit of time. So I think which is great. So it does give us some time to work with that. So I'm just going to share my screen in a second, but before I do that and bring up your profile, it does show that you have some strong interest in creative work, being very hands-on and visual and around design. So I'd like to get your thoughts. What do you think about that? Does that sound accurate?
Yes.
Do you like doing visual things? Do you think that you are creative? And does that sound about right?
Yep. I like doing art.
Oh, okay. So what sort of, do you do any projects like outside of school? Do you do any sort of projects where you're using your interest in art and that creativity part of you to work, to make things, build things, any of that sort of stuff?
Mm, not really.
Do you like designing and making things at all?
I like cooking.
Cooking? Yeah, we could say that's an art, couldn't we?
Yep.
What about sewing and painting and drawing and things of that nature?
Sometimes I like to sew on the
You like to,
sewing machine.
sorry, you like to sew and,
On the sewing machine.
oh, okay, there you go. And what sort of things do you like to make?
Um, like bags.
Okay, so what we're sort of discovering about the profile right now is a little bit of that is accurate. Would be fair to say?
Yeah.
So what activities, not necessarily subjects, but activities do you enjoy most at school?
Um, mm,
Is it doing group work? Is it working on your own to just, do your assignments where you can? Is it exploring things further? Is it designing, questioning things? Um, is there certain activities that you like to do in and around the classroom?
doing things as a group, but also by myself.
Okay, and okay, good answer. So what about technology? Do you like technology?
No.
As we're using technology at the moment. So how do you feel about technology?
I don't like it. It confuses me.
Oh, okay. What part? What sort of technology confuses you?
Um, like computers and
Okay.
online stuff.
All right. What sort of computer are you using at the moment? A Mac.
And math.
Yeah. Okay. I knew you were going to say that because most school kids that we work with use Macs. That's a language that I don't speak, so we might end up confusing each other. Um, have you thought about what kind of career or work environment you might like to work in after year 12? Whether it be
Um,
outside, indoors, in an office building,
I inside.
maybe inside. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Um, is there any? I know this is a very introductory meeting that we're having at the moment, but is there any concerns or doubts that you have about thinking about or choosing a career pathway?
Um, not really.
Okay. Well, that's good. Um, All right, so I'm just gonna. Thank you for those answers. That's helpful for me. I'm just going to bring up your profile for a second and share my screen. So just bear with me while I do that because I did want to pick out a few of the pages in it. Um, and while I'm doing that, how did you find the profile? Was it something
I
that was
didn't
pretty
like
easy?
doing it.
A big one.
I didn't like sitting with it.
You didn't you didn't like sitting there.
No.
Did you get to have a break while you're doing it?
We did one and then we had lunch and then we did the rest of them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think because it can take about 2 hours, can't it, to do?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So can you see my screen okay? Can you I'm
Yeah.
not looking at it at the moment, so I can see you very small in the right-hand corner, so give me a thumbs up if you can. All right, excellent. So I'm just going to go through a couple of the pages on your profile that I got some information from, and I'm not going to go through all the pages. I'm just going to pick out a few here. but particularly your interest area. Can you see in the top right-hand corner, it does say that you are practical, technical, artistic, and you have an interest in design.
Yeah.
Does that sound accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah. So some of the conversation that we've had already today, I've been asking you questions, to sort of pry further into that, because those interest areas also align with some of these vocational areas and things that you might be interested in, and that might be working with people, working in the information space, okay, and then other things like science, technology, and practical things. So you've got a very a profile that really suggests that you do like to look into things further, which is interesting. I'm just going to skip through a couple of pages here, but and then again here you see it mentions that art is one of the things that is probably a specialist area for you, so that makes a little bit of sense. I asked you about your work and what sort of work that you would like, to do, whether it be indoor or outdoor, and in what sort of setting. This one is saying that you're enthusiastic, ambitious, you could be a leader, could be a manager. You're very logical and realistic about things. So does ambition sound like something that resonates with you? Do you feel like you're ambitious about things? You're keen on learning things more?
Yeah.
All right, excellent. So some of this profile is coming together really nicely, isn't it? So as I said, I'm not going to go through every page. This one's really interesting that talks about the role in organisation. Would you say you're a collaborative person? Because before you did say you do like working with others in a group setting.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Which is a good thing. There's a good to have a balance of being collaborative and some independence, but the big wide world of work does mean working with other people. Obviously like working in nice surroundings, as we all do. And then as you mentioned earlier, indoors is something that appeals to you as well. So I found, so that's sort of interesting information. And then this one here, and not knowing you that well, Lucy, we've only had one conversation previously, but this is describing your personality type, and it says that you're organised, you're structured, you're amiable, you're discerning, you're considerate. So there's a fair bit of analytical skills that are involved in there. And this one here, where it talks about, are you more comfortable in a well-ordered, structured environment? So you're judging rather than perceiving. You have a very strong sense of understanding judgment and try to unpack things a little bit more, which is a little bit on the fascinating side as well. And this one here, where there's a balance between introvert and extrovert, means sometimes we are, our personality comes out in us, and then sometimes, our personality doesn't. So it's a really interesting profile that you have. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention was just your learning style, and you've sort of mentioned this already, but it does lean towards that design and art sort of space where, it's about producing something and maybe reflecting on what you've done once you've reached a goal. So I reckon that's kind of interesting as well. All right, so that's really all I wanted to sort of dig deep in there without going through the profile word for word. But down the bottom, and I'm sure you've seen this already, but it's identified some career suggestions for you, and these ones up here in highlighted in green, and they are in the art and creative field, which is terrific. Now, tell me, have you really ever thought about being an antique restorer or repairing furniture ever?
No.
Have you ever been interested in working with pottery?
No.
Okay. Well, this is what today's conversation is about because as much as your profile at this point in time has identified these are the things that through your interests and your aptitudes and your personality and your learning style, this is what comes out. But we're also going to talk about a pathway for next year, okay? Which is mentioned down here. You might not have read this at all, but I'm going to sort of tap into this space here. Okay. Have you got any questions so far?
No.
All right. Great. All right. I'm just going to, so I'm going to stop sharing that. And I'm actually going to move to another screen where I've made some notes on your profile and just run through those with you. Can you see that screen okay?
Yeah.
Is that writing okay, or do you need me to blow it up a little bit? I can make it a bit bigger if you need me to.
Yes, please.
As I say, I can do that. I'm trying to do it. How's that?
Yeah.
Much better?
Good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So just some of the notes I made, Lucy, when I was going through your profile. But so as I said, you've got a strong practical design and aesthetic interest, which is very, very much for people that like to work in the art space. So that creativity part really sort of comes out in your profile. So you learn best through doing hands-on real world things and problem solving. So has that ever been something that you've thought about, that you may be good at solving problems and doing puzzles and things like that? So unpacking things, does that sound like something that sounds like you?
Yeah.
All right. Not 100% committed, but okay, understand. So what the profile is basically saying to us, so you're now in year 10, moving into year 11 next year. So the Victorian Curriculum and Assessment Authority, the VCAA, as we like to call it, or some people call it VACA, are the ones that put the unit structures and your subject structures together for next year. So I've just done a very simple synopsis, I guess, based on your interest and what some of the offerings are for year 11, and I'll share this with you when I email you all the information. But you know, it's very much tailored towards getting you set up to think about moving into that art space, and that's something called Art Creative Practice Units 1 and 2. Okay, which is a newer type of Unit 1-2 curriculum than it has been previously, because it's replaced something previously in 2023. So Units 1 and 2, are you familiar with what that means?
Not really.
Like sort of introductory units, if you like. And then in VC, you go on and do Units 3 and 4, which you'll do in 2027. Does that sound right? Yep. So some of the subjects that I think that if this is an area you're looking at going into, these are the ones that I think would be ones to look at. So you obviously have to do an English unit, whether it be English or English lit or language. That, based on how you feel about English, you have to do one of those, and then we go into those art type subjects, one around visual communication and design. I think in year 10 you do like a BizCom visual communication unit already. Yeah, that's a bit of an extension of that, as is the art practice. And then there's as we mentioned before, you do maybe struggle with technology a little bit, but this is about product design and technologies used in that sector. So introductory. And then there's obviously a math subject that you're going to need to do in year 11 as well. So whether it be general or foundation. So not everyone's a fan of maths. So how do you feel about maths?
I like it.
All right, cool. So, we've got plenty of time to think about what sort of maths you want to do, whether you want to do the general, the foundation, or the applied. That's, you've got some time to make those decisions. But this pathway that I'm showing you here is just something I wanted to identify, that, maybe these are some of the things to start to think about. And as we have further conversations about your subject choices, and maybe as you move into your career space, this might resonate for you as well. Now, there is the option of doing a 6th subject, and that would be probably, we would probably take something out of the environmental science sphere, because that will help you further link your creativity and design and look into sustainability themes, which I think would be of interest as well. So again, I just wanted to mention, so that's what I've taken from your profile to date, and I just wanted to identify some of the subjects that moving into year 11 might be a nice pathway. So looking at that for the first time, how do you feel about that? Is that
Good.
interesting or a little bit scary, or what do you think?
Scary.
Yeah, okay, understand why, because we're thinking about year 11.
Yeah.
All right, and which is a big step, but and these and I can understand that, and these units or subjects are very much really hands-on type subjects. So there's going to be portfolios and things like that to do. So which is why I asked you about activities before. You know, if you like doing photography, for example, and producing the photos and things like that. So there's some interesting things. Is there any of those subjects there that you may feel excited about at all?
This come. This
Okay, all
biggest
right.
communication. Yeah.
Yeah, and what and how and why is that?
Because I'm doing it this year and I really like it.
Oh, excellent. All right, so that would be a really good way of keeping further exploring that, wouldn't it?
Mm.
All right, good. Well, I'm glad to hear that there's some interest area there. So I'm really pleased with that. So look, so today we've made some thoughtful decisions about your pathway, but between ourselves, it sounds like moving forward there is a strong creative subject plan that I've identified for you to do in year 11. And I'm really pleased to hear you saying like visual comms is sounding like something that you're keen to further explore and you have no fear of maths. That's really good. So this is also something when I email you this information, you can review with your family and teachers before you end up making your ultimate choice in what you want to do. Is there anything else that you want to sort of talk about now um, that we've discussed today?
Um, no.
Okay. All right. So what we might do, Lucy, is I think as we meet again in let's say a month's time, we can keep reviewing the information that I've got you, and I'll certainly send you that information to review. And then we can start to really unpack what some of these subjects look like, and in terms of, maybe some of the assessments that you'll do, some of the way that the subjects are delivered, and then give you a real idea about and having some confidence to move into year 11 before you actually start the subject. So we've got we've got about half a year to work through all of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, great. So I reckon you're making some really exciting steps forward. So for some of the future and which reflects your strengths and passions, Lucy. I'm really looking forward to seeing where your creativity takes you. So it sounds I really think that this. I'm sorry, I didn't realise I was still sharing my screen. It sounds like there's a nice pathway for you there, and I'm really keen to talk to you more about this in the future. All right, thank you. So what I'll do, Lucy, is follow up. I'll send you a snapshot of today's conversation, and then ask you to make a time in the next couple of months, so you can just unpack the information and certainly take it home and speak to your family about it. In terms of this is what I'm thinking about, and get their input into what they think about it as well. All right. Is there any other questions I can answer for you right here and now?
No, all good.
All right. So can I ask you one final question? On a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling? 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest. How are you feeling about year 11 now around some of the subject choice conversation we've had? 1 being really nervous, really scared. 10 being I'm fine. Let's do it. I'm ready to go.
Probably like 7 or 8.
All right. Well, that's really good. It gives us something to work for in the future. All right. Thanks so much. I really found today's conversation really helpful, and hopefully you did as well. Again, I'll send some of this information to you in the next day or so. Reach out if you've got any further questions, and we'll make a time to catch up in in the not too distant future.
Okay.
All right. Thanks so much. Nice to see you.
Bye.
All right. See you later.